RV life is changing, and many people are not going to like this change, and they're going to be willing to hang up the keys to the RV for good. Stay tuned, and we're going to tell you what is changing and why so many aren't going to stick with it.
We are Charity, Ben, Dakota, and Trinity. We decided we didn't want to wait for a life of adventure. So in 2017, we bought our first RV and set off to live a life of travel in the USA. We've visited over 38 states in 3 years and have many more to go. Follow along to learn all the best places to see, RV and travel tips, and much more.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel if you're a regular viewer, and if you're new here, well, stick around, and if you like what you see, definitely hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and consider sharing this video with somebody you know that just might find this useful. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I have been seeing a ton of discussion about, not only in the comments of our own video, but in things like Facebook groups and online forums, anywhere where you're seeing RV'ers kind of chat with one another online. This topic has been coming up over and over and over again, and so I thought it was about time that we made a video and we talked about it. So in short, the way that most of us have lived RV life is drastically changing. And if you're not prepared to adjust the way that you've lived RV life in the past, well, you're probably going to be ready to just quit altogether. And we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes a little bit later in the video, but it is no secret that many RV'ers are frustrated with the way things are going right now when it comes to trying to find campgrounds and trying to find availability for campsites. We were just on a call last week with some friends that are RVing right now in Colorado, and they literally have not been able to find a campsite in the area that they wanted to be. They ended up having to drive over 3 hours away from their preferred destination just to be able to get a campsite in the state of Colorado right now. And we're not talking the height of like the busy summer season either. I mean, it's September. We're past the whole busy Labor Day weekend. We're technically at the end of camping season traditionally, and it's not slowing down out there. And these campgrounds, and especially in popular areas like the whole state of Colorado right now, are staying fairly consistently booked. So if you've been that type of RVer that has kind of lived RV life that's sort of like a fly by the seat of your pants and super spontaneous, and we're just gonna go wherever the wind blows us, well, that is changing. And that particular style of RVing is not going to be as feasible in the coming months and in the coming years. Completely gone are the days of waking up on a Wednesday morning and saying, let's go camping this weekend, and being able to actually take the camper out and find a campsite. Anymore, it is going to require some advanced planning and some advanced thought into being able to just even go camping for a weekend. So for example, I actually have a relative that camp hosts at a very small campground in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. Now, this is one of those city-run campgrounds. It's first come, first serve. It's a really cool little campground, actually. And he's actually been letting me know, because he camp hosts there, so he's there all the time, that this campground's staying consistently full. And it's starting earlier and earlier in the year that it's staying consistently full. It used to just be like on the weekends, right? When the locals would want to come and camp. No, people are coming and they are staying consistently longer, and it's harder and harder to be able to find a site, even in these little campgrounds in the middle of nowhere, because more and more people are picking up RVing and they're enjoying the RV lifestyle, and they want to be able to take the camper out and have fun. And it's not just on the weekends anymore, but more and more people are working remotely, which opens it up for more people to do this on a long-term basis. So when we first started RVing, you didn't have to make these way advanced reservations. In fact, we could kind of decide like, hey, let's go camping in a couple of weeks, or let's go to this place just this coming weekend, and we could get in and just jump online and make a reservation, and off we were for the weekend or for a long week or something like that. But those days are long gone. So according to the RVIA, there are over 11 million households now in the US that are RV owners. And this is at its highest level ever recorded. It's a 62% increase since 2021 and 124% increase since 1980. Now, some of you that are a little bit older than we are actually might have been RVing since 1980. And so if you've been on the road since the 80s, you'll have to let us know in the comment below if you've been camping since then or RVing since then. We'd really like to know how you have perceived these changes and what this has kind of meant for you over the years. So now contrast this, 11 million households that own RVs, and there's approximately 13,000 private-owned campgrounds. There's approximately 1,600 state parks, and there's, give or take, 103,000 bookable sites through recreation.gov. Now, one thing to think about with the bookable sites through recreation.gov, there's going to be quite a few of those that are like tent sites and not actual RV sites. But just for the sake of this discussion, let's pretend that they are all RV sites. And then let's, for the sake of discussion, say that the average private campground has 200 sites, which most of them probably don't have that many, but we're just going to be super generous for the sake of discussion here and say they've got 200 campsites. And so let's kind of think about the math here. That works out to about 3 million campsites across the US. And if there's 11 million households that own RVs, well, this is about first grade level math here. 11 million minus 3 million gives you a shortfall. Now, of course, not everybody's going to be out on the same weekend at the same time, but you start to kind of get the picture that there are not near enough campgrounds and campsites to really accommodate the volume of people that are out there that are RVing right now. So before we talk about really the implications for this on the campground side, let's talk about something else that this increase actually means. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 15,000 people that are in a profession of RV technician. Now, this doesn't include people that are self-employed. This just includes like what's actually being reported. So let's just, again, for the sake of argument, say that there's triple the amount of RV techs out there that are self-employed, have their own business maybe. So that gives us 45,000 people that are RV techs, but yet there's 11 million households with RVs. Again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do the math on that to understand the huge shortfall that there is when it comes to even getting service or repairs made on an RV should you need that. Okay, so right about now you might be thinking, okay, I get it. There's a shortage of campgrounds, there's a shortage of RV technicians, so really, why are you telling us all of this information and what does it really mean and why should I even care? Well, I am glad you asked, and we're going to get to most of this as we move on through the video here. The answers to these questions also are going to be very indicative of some of the trends that you're going to start seeing in the whole RV industry and in the RV community as a whole. So you're going to definitely want to pay close attention and take some mental notes and maybe even save this video to a playlist to watch for later, because these are going to be some important things to notice. And when these things start happening, you're going to kind of understand where the RV industry is going as a whole. So here are some tips that you need to know to be able to continue to live this lifestyle. Tip number 1, be prepared to start thinking way in advance. And I mean like way in advance, like 6 months to a year in advance as you are planning any sort of trip. We are already starting to think about and plot out our trip for summer of 2022, even though we aren't even really hardly past summer of 2021 yet. We know that these trends mean that we're going to have to jump on these campsites a lot sooner. A lot of places have a 6-month window, but some places have a 1-year window. So I'm already starting this planning process. I'm already starting to look at what are the anchor points of the places that we want to visit and putting notes on my calendar to know, okay, this is a place I need to go 6 months in advance, a year in advance to be able to book the reservations to get the places that we want to be able to visit secured and locked in. Now, I know there's so many of you that don't like thinking about this, and you don't like the fact that the RV world has come to this, and there's a lot of people that have left comments that really just belabor the point that they don't like that this is where things are going. So I am so sorry that things are changing. But there's one thing I do know. There's pretty much only one thing in life that is absolutely certain. Well, really the saying goes there's two things: death and taxes. That's it. Everything else is subject to change, and it is going to change, and it is changing. And if you want to continue to live this life, you are going to need to be able to adapt to change. That is the biggest reason that we see people are going to want to hang up the keys to the RV, is that they're not going to want to adapt to some of these changes. Now we're going to share some more tips on keeping up with these changes as we move along in the video. But I wanted to just stop right here and let you know that is one of the biggest things that we see where people are going to want to quit, is because of their inability to adapt to change. And if you can learn to adapt to change, not only is that going to help you with this lifestyle, but it's going to help you in a lot of other areas in life. And if there's anything that we really want to make sure we're teaching our children with this lifestyle, is the ability to adapt to change, is the ability to face difficulties head on with a positive attitude and just a good mental outlook. Because if we can teach them that skill, it's going to put them light years ahead of their peers as they move forward in life. Tip number 2, embrace the change. Those that actually embrace the change are going to be those that get the good campsites that they want, but also just are going to have a little bit less stress in their lives, having things just kind of planned out and a little bit more secure as they move forward with living the RV lifestyle. And let me just kind of throw this out there that if you're not willing to embrace the change of kind of how this looks with needing to book in advance and think in advance, well, let's just kind of hope that there's a lot of good boondocking spots that are out there and dispersed camping where you can find things on the fly, because the buzz is even those are starting to fill up pretty quickly too. So tip number 3, use and embrace the available tools that are out there now. There are so many different websites and software and apps available to help you book campsites, even things like CampNab, where you can snag a campsite kind of more last minute. There's just so many planning tools that are out there. And speaking of planning tools, we've actually made the template that I developed and used for our trip planning free to you all. So there'll be a link in the description below, or you can go to gratefulglamper.com/planner and download your free template. Now, one thing that I have put in this template is not only a place to track and plan your campground stays and the dates you're going to be there, but also a budgeting tool to be able to look at your campground costs as well as the campground bookings themselves. So I've really tried to make it be a good all-in-one tool to help you figure out lots of things in one spot. So you can get that free download at the link below. So we wanted to take a quick break right here in the video before we move on to the next tip to thank campgroundviews.com for sponsoring today's video. So campgroundviews.com is a great way to see the whole campground before that you book by being able to take a virtual video tour of the campsite before you even book. We love using this tool to be able to find the best site in the campground. And with having a larger RV, some sites and campgrounds and RV parks are just better than others for the size of our rig, and trying to put the Jeep on our particular campsite helps us to know if there's a bush or a tree or a big rock or where things are at in the campsite before that we actually select that site and book it, so that we know that we've got the room that we want to be able to spread out, put out our slides, park our Jeep, all of that. And that can be very hard to see, especially when you're booking through recreation.gov or booking through reserveamerica.com for some particular state parks. We love being able to use the Campground Views virtual tours to be able to check out those sites, see exactly what site's going to work best for us before that we hit that book button. And especially with booking in advance now, we can pretty much kind of have the pick of the site that we want if we know we're going to be able to jump on that website at that day and time. So this has been an invaluable tool for us as RVers to be able to get just the right spot in just the right place. You can check out Campground Views at the link below, or you can visit gratefulglamper.com/campground views. So tip number 4. Be ready to learn about your RV and become your own handy man or woman, handy person. Become a handy person. Understand kind of what some of the systems are and how to make your own repairs. Remember, we talked about the whole shortfall between the amount of technicians and the amount of RVs that are on the road. And so being able to get service on an RV or a technician to come out and take a look at your RV can kind of be a little bit of a crapshoot on time and availability. And then let's not even talk about pricing. So this is where a great resource of the National RV Training Academy comes in, and we'll put a link in the description below. But you can go to their school, which is right on site. They have an owner's course that will walk you through the different systems of RVs being from an owner's perspective. They also offer certification programs for a certified inspector and also an RV tech. So if that's something you're interested in, or maybe you've got kiddos or grandkiddos that maybe an RV tech would make a great career for them. So I'll put a link below and you can check that out and maybe pass this video along to them or pass the info on to them as well. We definitely need more RV techs that are out there. So as you can kind of see, there's a lot of change coming and we've talked about a lot of things about adapting to the change and just really embracing what's going on in the RV world. There is a ton of work that goes into RV living, whether it be maintenance or whether it be keeping track of all of these reservations, planning, things like that. It's a lot of work and a lot of effort. And there are going to be those that are just going to find this amount of effort to be too much, and they're going to be willing to hang up the keys and list the RV for sale. And when this happens, you will start to see more used RVs hit the market. In fact, I received a text from a friend just the other day that they are at that point where RV life is just not quite what they are wanting anymore. And so they're going to be listing their Class A diesel pusher for sale and looking to settle down, at least for now. So you're gonna see this starting to come more and more as more and more people realize that these changes aren't exactly what that they bargained for when they first started out living RV life. Another thought for your consideration is if you're going to live this lifestyle, have a very clearly defined why of why that you're doing this. Anytime that you have a clearly defined why, you're going to find yourself being a little bit more ready to push through any obstacles that might come your way or adapt to any changes that you have to adapt to keep moving forward with your why. For us, the RV lifestyle is an amazing life, and we chose this lifestyle to be able to give our children an opportunity that we didn't have and to be able to see places that we haven't even seen ourselves. We're all experiencing it together for the very first time. And I can't think of a better way to teach my kids about the ocean and sea life and reefs than taking them down to Biscayne National Park and snorkeling the Florida Reef. And I can't think of a better way to teach my kids history and about the Declaration of Independence than actually going to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. and seeing that for ourselves firsthand. This is just a lifestyle that enables us to be able to teach our children things in a real world way that we wouldn't be able to teach them in any other way, in a hands-on, memorable way that they're going to actually be able to take this with them and carry it through the rest of their lives. Plus, we really wanted to live more minimalistically and prioritize experiences over stuff. And all of this enables us to do that. And so when we see difficulties or we have a breakdown or it's harder to book campsites, this why that compels us of why we chose this lifestyle really helps push us through those changes and those adversity to keep going in RVing. I cannot tell you how many times that we've had just those fleeting moments of like, okay, that's it. If one more thing happens, we're done. But of course, it's never that dramatic after you get on the other side of that particular challenge. But for some people, it is going to be that straw that breaks the camel's back. So just be watching for what's going on and what's going to happen. We really think that there's going to be a lot of interesting things that are going to come about in 2022 when it comes to the RV industry and the RV community. So keep your eyes open and you just might be able to snag that used RV that you've been thinking of in another 6 months or so. So you'll have to let us know in the comments below your thoughts on all of this, on all of the changes, on having to book campgrounds in advance. Where are you at in your RV journey? Are you ready to hang up the keys? Are you ready to keep going? What is your why for living this lifestyle? Let us know all of this in the comments below. We love reading your comments. We love being able to connect with you in that way. And speaking of connecting, if you'd like to connect with us on a little bit deeper level, we do have an insiders group, which we'll put a link in the description below for that as well. But this is another group where we can connect with you on a little bit of a deeper level. If that is something that you're interested in joining us over on Patreon to be a supporter and an insider. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, those that actually embrace the chains, don't embrace the chains. Tip number two, it's like 4, or through, that's not gonna work. So we love being able to use the campground fuels, or you can visit I don't need to say www. So there is a crap, no, I shouldn't say crap. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us the thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos on fun places to travel, because that's why we live this lifestyle anyway, isn't it? You can check those out right over here. And if you would like to see some of our most popular videos, especially our RV products and finds at stores that maybe you wouldn't think about, you can check those out right over here. And if we don't see you on the road or at the campground, we'll see you in the next video.